Oh, hello there. Has this ever happened to you? You're swiping right on Tinder, and only after you match with somebody do you realize that they're actually a Romero zombie? But then, you see like they're cute and funny, and they're like, and then you're like, LOL, and then they're like, and you start to realize, yo, this is getting serious. Could be love. But you don't know the first thing about Romero zombies. You don't want to look ignorant when you meet your future zombie spouse on the first date. You know what I mean? Well, don't worry. Your buddy Danny Roth at Sci-Fi Wire knows more things about Romero zombies than anyone should, really. Like, way too much. Anyway, gather around, you Tinderkin, and I'll tell you everything you need to know about Romero zombies. Okay, that bit is over. I'm sorry. So what's up with Romero zombies? Who are they, and beyond the date, why should you care? Well, they're the slow-moving, flesh-eating, decaying undead created by writer-director George Romero that basically defined what the modern zombie is. And according to Romero, his zombies represent revolution, and specifically the way revolution destabilizes a culture. And you should care about that because to understand where the textual, subtextual, and even metatextual ways Romero zombies fit into their world is to understand how to cope with real-life revolutions and the direct and reactionary violence that grows out of them. Might be useful when you aren't on the zombie date, know what I mean? I'm talking about Trump. So Romero zombies really bring a lot of enduring issues to the table, like racism, entertainment over dissemination of accurate information in the news, racism, police brutality, the death of human identity through capitalism, racism, the danger of absolute military control, the greed of the uber-wealthy 1%, racism, and sometimes zombies are just a metaphor for death. Did I mention racism factors in? Boy, does it. And the other thing that's interesting about Romero zombies is that the further into Romero's zombie series you get, the more human-like characteristics the zombies take on, and conversely, the more violent the remaining living humans become. Let's break down Romero zombies movie by movie to help you understand them a little better. Night of the Living Dead was released in October 1968, and it opens in a graveyard where two siblings, Barbara and Johnny, are visiting their father's grave. And one of the things they remark on is that they don't even really remember what their father looked like.
I don't even remember what the man looks like.
One classic zombie movie line later,
"They're coming to get you, Barbara."
and the first ever Romero zombie shows up. And in this case, that zombie basically represents the very real, very obvious anxiety that someday we're all gonna die, and we're all gonna be forgotten. So death, it's a pretty obvious thing for a zombie to represent. But Night is a nuanced flick, man, and it is not satisfied to just be like, yo, wow, death is scary, you guys. So we transition pretty quickly to a couple things. One is heavily related to death anxiety, which is that after Barbara winds up in a house with a bunch of other people, we meet a married couple who has a daughter. And she has been bitten by a zombie. Now, I don't want to surprise anybody here, but the kid eventually eats her parents, which is a not so subtle way of saying that having kids is basically straight up admitting that someday they are going to replace you because, say it with me, we're all going to die. Uplifting. And then there's the closest thing we get to a scientific explanation for why the dead are coming back to life, and that's space radiation?
In other words, you feel that the radiation on the Venus probe is enough to cause these mutations?
Remember, space travel, even satellites, were relatively new in the 1960s, and we also had this huge anxiety about radiation after the invention and use of the atom bomb. So the night zombies represent this global fear of technology, and especially rockets and radiation. I mean, just imagine how stressed you might feel if the President of the United States was talking about using nuclear weapons right now, right? Anyway, totally unrelated to the president, let's talk about racism. So the main character of Night of the Living Dead is Ben, played by Dwayne Jones, and this is where we really see the textual, the subtextual, and the metatextual ways Romero and his zombies can really speak to real-world issues. Ben is the only black character in a movie full of white people, so the pretty textual text here is that the white patriarch figure basically second guesses Ben the whole movie. The subtext is, you guessed it, racism, hi, hello, and the metatextual part is that Martin Luther King Jr. had been assassinated 2 months before Dwayne Jones was cast. Why is that relevant? Did I mention that Ben is the one main character to survive the final zombie attack in Night, only to be shot dead by the police at the end of the movie because they thought he might be a zombie?
All right, Vince, hit him in the head, right between the eyes.
Cops killing an innocent black man. That is not subtle. So the biggest thing Romero Zombies represent in Night is the ease with which people, especially people with power, will fall back on bias-fueled violence the moment the status quo is upset. Gosh, it's a good thing this nearly 50-year-old movie's lessons are outdated and unnecessary now. Right? And the hits just keep on coming. Dawn of the Dead hits theaters in 1978, and the zombies are mostly more of the same. Since they're all milling around a mall, they do directly represent the idea that human identity is eroded by consumer culture, but mostly it's still more about how the stress of the zombies simply existing, but now in larger numbers, erodes society full stop. Whether it's the news caring more about you watching than you getting the truth, or how the police immediately use the zombie outbreak to kill black people, or how ultimately, regardless of gender or race, people's selfish panic will lead to their own inevitable self-destruction and ruination. Yep. Oh, and also there's a Hare Krishna zombie, so that's a shift in zombie behavior somehow. Probably. I will tell you what is a shift in zombie behavior beginning with Day of the Dead in 1985. Meat Bub, a zombie that can talk. Well, I mean, he can talk like your dog can say, I love you. But that's still a pretty big deal. And in addition to big social messages like too much military bad and science can go too far, and wait, really? Racism again? I mean, it's a problem. I can't really say that's wrong, but in addition to those things, Day of the Dead is when Romero really starts asking what zombies would be in a world without us. And he also really leans in on the whole the real monster is man type of storytelling on a whole new level. If zombies represent revolution, then Day of the Dead is where we see the end of the previous civilization and the start of what comes next. And what comes next is not really much better. Bub still eats human flesh. He even learns how to use a gun to kill people. The difference is that now most of the zombie violence we see is reactionary. The zombies are trying to protect themselves from the humans, while the humans are mostly destroying the zombies and each other. And that's when we finally reach 2005's Land of the Dead, which is a movie that tries to strike a balance to suggest that some humans could maybe coexist with zombies.
They're trying to be us. Oh, they used to be us. Learning how to be us again.
So, in Land, the world has reached a point where zombies have overrun basically every city. And what's left is some safe-ish areas huddled around what are effectively gated communities for the uber wealthy. So you've got your uber rich, you've got the people who work for the uber rich to make sure that they still have food and gas and luxury and whatever. And then there's everyone else who's basically just hanging on. And then there are the zombies, most of whom really are just going through the motions of their previous lives. Until they get slaughtered, that is, even though they technically haven't even done anything wrong, haven't eaten any flesh at all. So there's this one zombie, Big Daddy. They went for that name, didn't they? And he basically looks at his fellow zombies, realizes that they are being unfairly brutalized, and starts a movement, which turns into a march on the gated community. Hashtag Zombie Lives Matter, because, you know, George Romero, again, not a subtle storyteller, and he really leans into that racism. John Leguizamo is in the movie as like a gopher for Dennis Hopper, who thinks maybe he can live in the gated community someday.
I'm sorry, Mr. DeMora, but there's a very long waiting list.
But Hopper is like, nah, son, because, you know, racism. Anyway, Leguizamo becomes a zombie and helps Big Daddy kill Hopper, and that's definitely played as just desserts, so that's something. And then on the macro level, Big Daddy and his zombie March eventually invade the gated community and kill all the wealthy folks, leaving the poorer class behind to start over. Now, I don't want to say that an oppressed lower class literally rising up to devour the rich is a dream of mine, but it is totally a dream of mine. Who am I kidding? Hey! Anyway, Land is basically Romero's way of suggesting that post-revolution, those that survive could maybe potentially live side by side in peace, even if some of them are, say, flesh-eating zombies. So, see? There is hope for you and your zombie Tinder date. Just don't be a selfish rich person, or a violent soldier, or a scientist with no moral compass. Just like in life, don't be a huge racist, and things will probably work out. And that's everything you need to know about Romero Zombies. I'm Danny Roth, and this is Sci-Fi Wire. Follow Sci-Fi Wire on Twitter and Instagram, and hey, if the zombie date works out, invite me to the wedding. See you next time.